Hey guys and gals. Again, sorry I was on practice Wednesday night. I actually drove over a leaf spring in someone's car and it absolutely blew up my tire, so apologies for that. Obviously, I wasn't at the game last weekend. I did manage to watch it from the lake. Not the outcome we expected, but it is what it is, and we just got to move on. So, first things first, we got a really big game tonight, right? Our season's goal so far has not changed. We just got to sneak by the Warriors, and we're in playoffs, right? Looking to be the Crude. So definitely not something I think is going to be out of our reach at all. I think over the last few weeks here, we've kind of seen some frustrations kind of dwelling. Games haven't been going our way. And I kind of made a little PowerPoint about just some kind of mental, emotional stuff to talk about and just some ways to kind of try and reframe some of those kind of feelings or emotions we have, after some tough stretches, so we can kind of acknowledge them, use them, and then kind of just move on and not drag them into, upcoming practices and games. You can definitely get a point at which fatigue kind of just starts it's kind of settling in through some of the frustrations, and it can really just have a pretty big impact on your performance on the floor as athletes. So, first and foremost, Ethan said a while ago, he's like, "Oh, you're the concept guy." So, I just want to reiterate, all of our coaches have a different role on the team, and you're gonna hear different things from everybody else, right? So, I'll start with Ethan first. He's probably the first one to get on your case about practicing, about getting the reps in, about working hard, about playing tough. Probably going to be a little harder on you guys than I will be, which is good, right? We all have a role to play on the team, and that starts with the coaching staff, right? Graydon's going to be pump your tires, always happy, always cheering you on, and just kind of giving you a lot of just very technical, specific lacrosse kind of knowledge, right? Obviously more so on the O side, but do you guys, if you ever want like a opposing kind of opinion on things, what would you do in this situation? I mean, Grade's your guy, right? Then obviously Kevin and Kim, again, just the more opinions, the more views we can have. You guys see time and time again, I start talking way too much, and then Kim will throw in, some super valuable kind of nugget that I just totally blanked on and didn't mention, and he's been a super good help for this year. And then obviously like Wildman with the goalies, like the whole staff's been working super hard to support you guys, and we haven't given up. So hopefully you guys are still feeling like we got a lot of fight left in us. We're still looking. I think we had 5 regular season games left. We're gonna have a couple playoff games against the Crude, and hopefully we see those Rebels in the finals, which will punch our ticket to provincials, which is definitely not something I think that is going to be impossible for us. So it kind of all starts tomorrow night or tonight if you're watching this in the morning, given that I've been sitting here working on this stuff for it's like 12:30 right now. But so I think a big thing at this point, guys, is before you get to the rink tonight, kind of asking yourself how you're feeling about the season so far, with the team, about yourself. Have you been having fun? Are you still feeling positive? Are you, looking forward to the next game? Are you starting to let some negativity come in, some frustrations? Are you, feeling like we should be winning more games than we're not? These are all very valid feelings, and that's something else we're kind of going to talk about in kind of one of the slides here. So, but first and foremost, like, we got to show up to the rink ready to play tonight. Energy levels need to be high. Take care of yourselves for today. Get some water, get some food, get a nap in. And let's really come out from the first shift and just get the job done, right? We've worked hard, throughout the season to kind of get where we are, kind of on a systems level, on a strategy level. We've been working on a lot of new things, and it's not going to come easy, right? We've had some difficulties with injuries, with having fresh faces in the lineup, kind of rotating in and out, which adds a whole another level of difficulty, right? New players, new styles of communication, different styles of play. They don't know the systems. So just kind of keeping that all in mind, right? When you kind of look back at how we've been performing, and not expecting too much of ourselves in certain situations, I guess is the best way to put it. So, so you can kind of see the kind of title here. So just so you guys know, I have been fully intentioned in building more of these for you guys, and it's just with coaching and being at the rink so much, and work and everything else. And these actually take longer than I thought to kind of just do a good job. So this one I kind of scraped together tonight. It's missing some stuff I like to get in there, but this is going to be like kind of a higher level discussion on I think how you guys should be viewing your time playing lacrosse, but also like some other things that you want to pursue in life that maybe a little more complicated, a little more difficult, a little more stressful. A lot of these lessons we learn in sports really have a lot of carryover, and so if you can take anything away from your time playing lacrosse when you're young, is just kind of building some confidence and just learning how to work hard, overcome adversity, and just really be thoughtful about how you approach your development as a player and as a person. So so kind of put a title here. Just like I said, I just slapped this together, so hopefully everything's kind of makes sense. So kind of a unique viewpoint on development, managing expectations, and resolving emotions. So we'll just go with it. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so this is one of my favorite little memes here. I actually keep this on my desk for one of my other for my side job, and it just really reminds me of anything worth fighting for, anything that requires a lot of sacrifice. It's gonna be tough, right? Simple people do simple things. People who want to achieve, who want they have great visions. They want to be successful at business, life, sports. It's a tough road, right? There's a lot of competitive people out there, and you guys are getting to a point in your lacrosse career where it is getting more and more competitive, right? Not a lot of kids get an opportunity to play Tier 1, and there's a lot of kids who would love to, right? And then as you go up to Junior A and Senior B and Senior A and NLL, it gets even more competitive, right? And so just keeping that in mind and giving yourself some slack sometimes, or cutting yourself some slack when you maybe aren't performing to, the level at which you think you should be, or if things just aren't going according to plan. It's be thoughtful about it. Make sure you're continually assessing and trying to work towards that next stage, but also not just having the wheels fall off the wagon with self-doubt and frustration and all just kind of those emotions that can sometimes hinder our development. So just a little context here. Context is everything, right? You guys hear me say this all the time, when I'm coaching, when we're having discussions, it's like, hey coach, what should I do here? Depends, right? There's so many variables involved in a lot of these things, and how we kind of react to a lot of situations has a lot of context to it too, right? And so I kind of put our little last 7 games in there, 0-7-1. It's been a tough run, right? But we've seen a lot of really good lacrosse out of you guys, and I want you to really focus on that, right? So the first thing that comes to mind is, we've had a lot of difficulties in our lineup with injuries, with some missing some guys, and we had just a lot of call-ups, a lot of APs who've been doing super well for us, and we've been kind of contributing to the team as best they can. But when you look at the teams that we've played here, Blizz, Kings, Mavericks, Chill, they're all really good lacrosse teams, and we do have to keep that in mind that we do have to keep that in mind when we kind of assess where we're currently at and our ability to compete against certain teams. It probably shouldn't be out of the question that we lose some of these games, and it sucks to hear that from a coach, but we go play that Blizz team. They're a good team. 13 hours on the bus, 3 games in 26 hours. We're short we're short a few players with injuries. We got a bunch of call-ups with us. There's just a lot of things that come into play when you're really unraveling the outcomes, right? And if we just walk away with that and say, oh, we went 0-2-1, that's brutal. It wasn't a brutal weekend. I think that weekend was really good for our team. I think we did a lot of good things. I saw a lot of good things. That next game against the Kings, yeah, again, tough game. They're a good lacrosse team. They beat the Blizz, I think, almost every game this season. Um, and there was things I saw in that Kings game that I had, at least on the defensive side, that I haven't seen almost any of our players do all year. And I mean, just like making really good, well timed reads on ball and off ball. And that's like that's a huge point of progress for us, right? And so again, lost one to the Kings. It is what it is. We're gonna keep moving on. The chill game, I'm gonna watch it again actually. Graydon kind of mentioned he kind of felt like there was some frustrations there. I didn't even really kind of see what the lineup was. But again, guys, like, you know what? They're a good lacrosse team. We've been battling. It's gonna happen. It's happened to me over my sporting career. It happens to everybody once in a while. So again, you know what? It sucks. Be mad, be frustrated, and then kind of like get rid of that kind of reaction and start moving forward and asking ourselves the right questions on what we can do to get better. So I'll just kind of read this out here. Like, does our emotional reaction change when we start to ask questions about our performance, not the outcome? If our performance is the reason for our frustration, do we have a process in place to properly assess and remedy these performance issues? So again, just kind of just being aware of our feelings relative to our performance out there, relative to, the team as a whole, our coaching staff, our teammates, how do, like, what's our relationship with the sport? Do we love coming to the rink? Is practice enjoyable? Are we excited to come back and compete next week? These are all just super important things that ensure that we're coming to the rink and just a good state to come out and take another go at it, try and be our best, challenge ourselves, work hard with our teammates. So here's this is kind of the scale I use when I'm trying to assess anything kind of performance based that I do personally. And so, assuming that some of you guys maybe take math in school, this is just a bell curve, right? So middle chunk, 68% ballpark, and then your A's and C's, right? And so when you deal in probabilities, a lot of things kind of end up where the average just sits in the middle, and then you get your tails on the end. So I guess I'll read it out first. So how would we rate our recent performance on this scale? So if we went and we looked at our last game against the Chill, how would you guys rate it as a team? How would you rate yourself as your personal performance in that game, right? Was it pretty average? You think played okay, did some things wrong, did some things right? Yeah, you're probably B. That's probably pretty normal, right? A is like you come out there and just everything is super intuitive. You're just like, you're in the zone or whatever, all these terms that people use. It's like the game seems easy. It's just fluid. You don't really have to try to make decisions, to make plays, to get the loose balls. You're just kind of out there, and it just feels very natural and very easy. And you end up having a great game because of that, right? Then we have our C game, which is, you're frustrated, maybe you're tired, you're stressed out, you got other things going on, you didn't sleep well last night, you didn't eat well, you've been fighting your stick a little bit. It's like things aren't going wrong, and you're having a bad game, and that's gonna happen too, right? Like, everybody is going to have good games, bad games, but then there's like just your average, which is like what we can usually expect out of you as a player. So if we do a good job of kind of assessing where we're at as players, as teams, as coaches, we can kind of start to clean up some of our aspects on the C side, which then kind of allow us to build more into the A side. And so you'll see on the next kind of slide here kind of how that kind of works. So if we take, so we got our percentages on the left there. If we just took like a super kind of basic, simple example of like where our team might fall on this U7 St. Albert Rams team, we're playing against kids, or we're playing the Buffalo Bandits. You know, where does our skill set fall? And so, let's say we're in the middle. We're sitting at 50%. Our average, if we were to try and place a number on our team's average performance, 50%, right? We're not the kid with the egg and spoon. We're not the NLL champion Buffalo Bandits. We're somewhere in the middle. As we shift down, maybe into the 40, again, we're just pulling up ballpark numbers for reference. That's probably our C game. We come out, we shoot the lights out, we're feeling hot, the team's gelling, we're communicating, we're working hard. Maybe we're bumping up in the 60s, right? So that range of A to C is kind of a bandwidth of what we can expect to see out of our team. So you'll see on the top there, a narrow bandwidth of performance will mean that we probably perform pretty consistently, right? Whereas if we had this like super wide band of like if our A game and our C game was like one night we're in the NLL and the next night we're in the service center in St. Albert playing the U7s, you can imagine how that would just be like totally destructive on like a mental capacity. Like you're sitting there asking yourself like how one night you can be the best player, in the league in Alberta, and the next night you can't even catch a ball. And so, we don't want to be obviously super, super inconsistent. It kind of makes it hard to manage a season as well as our emotions. It makes it hard on coaches too to find out where to really address the problems. If we're just so inconsistent, we can never really address any problems on the A side or even some on the B side because our C side is going to be so wide and just needing so much attention. So we kind of say at the top there, like where would other teams hypothetically sit on this chart? Where would the chill sit? Maybe a little bit ahead of us? Are they right in line with us? Are we identical teams? And they just happen to have an A game that night and we had a B game, right? Would we need our A game to beat their B game? So do they have a little bit of overlap, but they're a little higher on the performance scale? Does their B game possibly beat our B game, statistically speaking? Are we pretty close? But yeah, maybe they're a little better team. So if we played them 100 times, they might edge us out a few times. Yeah, sure. So these aren't like hard answers here. It's just kind of more to provoke thought. The real value isn't so much in comparing ourselves to other teams. That's not really what it's used for. It's kind of used for a self-assessment and kind of like a way to build a roadmap for us to just easily chunk out the things we're good at, the things we're bad at, the direction we're going, and then making sure that we're like backfilling the gaps as we try and move into like a higher level of performance, right? As we add new strategies, as we increase the speed of the game, the speed of decision making. So you want to talk about wide variances in skill? $9 million, I'll be the best player on the floor and the worst player of the floor. I just think, I don't know, I think the whole nurse thing's hilarious, but it's a good example, right? Probably, he might be the highest paid defenseman in the league. And man, is he inconsistent. It's almost hilarious to watch how one night he will be one of the best D guys on the ice, and the next night you think he should be playing junior B. But it's a good example of how like inconsistencies and not addressing them can kind of be pretty tough to manage, right? And I imagine that he probably struggles with going to the rink and being like, man, like, am I going to, get it done tonight? Or am I going to make 9 bad pinches and fire 8 pucks up the center of the ice and cost our team 2 goals? Like, yeah. So, again, just I thought it was kind of a funny example of just keeping track of, like kind of where you're at on your high end and low end, and just having some awareness. So how do we address this? It's kind of the inchworm approach, right? If you look at the inchworm, well, it kind of looks like a bell curve, actually. So we want to work on the C's for a bit. And when we see improvement, we're going to push on things on the A side of things a little bit, introducing new skills and concepts. Eventually, the new skills and concepts will require a higher level of technical, tactical skills, probably physical, maybe some conditioning, everything else, etc. So we're going to have to kind of move back in and fill in the gaps that we have on our C game, on the weak spots, on the parts of our game that aren't great, that really are limiting our ability to perform at a higher level, right? And so it could be something as simple as like what's a good example? I didn't really thought about this. So, let's say our transition game starts getting really good, and you're playing on the back end, and you just can't, you can't throw a crisp pass 40, 50 feet. So if our transition game isn't operating at the level we would like it to, it's probably not a big deal. You can probably run down the floor because you're a good athlete, and you can flip a ball to Carter or one of the guys, and we can slow down the offense to a 5-on-5. Without a really well functioning transition, you don't have a lot of need for those fast on the run, passes on a wire down floor. And so that can be something that isn't super necessary in your toolkit if you're not playing for a team that runs that style of game. Now, obviously, we've talked about this lots, where we want to be in terms of our transition game. Some of you guys who, can't make those passes, I would say that's really holding you back as a player and kind of holding us back as a team in a little way. And this isn't, an effort to call anybody out, or I'm not meaning to call anybody out, but it's a simple example that kind of came to mind of an area that, it's something we need to be aware of if we really want to kind of keep moving to the next level. So, just so this isn't an entire PowerPoint of text, I always throw in some funny memes. So, and obviously that one's just about practicing with intent, right? So, this next slide's going to kind of talk about how, what happens if you only focus on your A side. And I kind of mentioned it earlier. So, working too much to improve your A game without ensuring you are also raising the level of your C game can cause difficulties in many facets of skill acquisition, tactical decision making, and make new strategies unlikely to be successful. So a wide bandwidth of potential performance can also have negative effects on the team mentally, as when a new high bar is set, it is the new standard, but unlikely to be reproducible within a number of games that would be of benefit. So essentially saying if all the stars aligned and technically, tactically, defensively, offensively, everything just rolls out an A. Like we've been given a gift by God. If we have the potential to play at such a high level and we manage to do it on all areas, it's easy to think how, as players, we could now set our standard for expectations to that game we had just played. And yet, if you look at the probability of that happening again, if we really do a good assessment of ourselves, it's probably very unlikely. But mentally, it will be very frustrating if you play a game like that, 10 out of 10, everything goes well, and then you come out the next game and you totally just shit the bed. It's hard on you guys. It really is, right? It's frustrating. It's, you lose that momentum, you lose the excitement, you're fighting your stick, you're not being as positive with the team. And there's a lot of things that come from that, right? And so we do want to be careful that we're just always filling those needed areas to pursue a higher level with our weaknesses or our areas that are lacking as players and as a team. So kind of what I just said here, and I kind of touched on it earlier too, like that wide, inconsistent kind of base. Sometimes we can be super good, but sometimes we can be really bad, and it's just not the model we want, right? We want to come out and be consistently moving forward, aware of our weak spots, and just fighting every game, right? Nobody wants to come out, play a great game, and then lose to the Crude by 15 goals. It's just it's not really conducive to just like a good team culture, to, you know, personal confidence. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say about that. So when I say it's not that simple, that ABC structure, or that way of evaluating your game, it's not, you're just like, oh, I had an A game tonight. It, it, you know, it goes a lot deeper than that. So um, you don't need to make it that deep. It kind of depends where you are in your athletic career. But I just kind of wrote out like a simple chart here on the next one. Um, I only expanded the offensive side. So you can see here, like our strategy, you know, we have 6 or 7 probably areas that would be involved in our strategy that we could assess. Within offense, actually, I'm missing the third one there. I don't know, I must got erased. But within offense, oh, got it. Okay, never mind. Within offense, defense, transition, you know, there's kind of 3 main factors that you want to pursue to be successful. And then we can break those down into technical, tactical, and then individual skills from there. And this isn't even talking about physical, mental, emotional side of things too, right? So you can see how as you get to a higher level, you need to start really like digging deep in your own game, in our team's game. The coaches really need to be aware of, you know, what we're struggling at the time, like what the limitations are in our systems. So we can just make sure that we're, like I said, backfilling. We're just taking care of that C game, right? If your organization in on defense is a struggle, well, that's probably like the first one on there, right? So it's like, why even work on anything else if we can't even organize on the back end? You know, man up, call our checks out, communicate. Um, if you can't do that properly, I mean, anything past that probably isn't that important. So again, just really like keying in on, you know, the big rocks that we can work on that are going to lead to, you know, some improvement on the front end of our, you know, our A side. And again, just like kind of said, the psychological and physical aspect too is a whole nother ball game. And so we're kind of talking a little bit here about the psychological stuff. The physical one, we could go down an entire rabbit hole too about different energy systems and movements, and there's just it's not the point of this kind of little chat. This is more just kind of a reflection of our last game and where as a team, and just making sure you guys like know that I'm not, you know, upset by anything that's happened. I'm not looking at our team like we are not where we want to be. You know, it is what it is. We played some good teams. We've had some difficulties with their roster. You know, we've done a lot of great things. We're learning, and like as far as I'm concerned, you know, we're still on our path to our, you know, inevitable goal this year. And I think you guys have all the talent and the work ethic to do it. So, coming back from that super complex chart, I would say just like if you're trying to apply something like this to lacrosse or to your life, you know, just keep it simple, right? Pick the 1 or 2, 3, 4 kind of categories and just kind of get general about it. Like, what am I the worst at? What's holding me back, right? So probably for you guys, you know, tactical decisions I make on the floor. Are you making the right decisions, right? Do you know where to be? Do you know where your angles are? Do you know when to cut? That type of thing. Technical, I mean, passing and shooting, guys, should not be an issue at this point. But, you know, if it is, just get out on the wall, right? Get a buddy out, fire some balls around. You know, every time we drop a ball, it's another possession. We lose control at that point of the game. So, sorry, my webcam keeps I'm using a GoPro and it keeps dying. Yeah, sorry, I won't. I just realized this thing is gonna be it's 28 minutes so far, so let's get this going. Yeah, so again, you know, break down into 4 or 5 categories. Obviously, offense, defense will be a little different. Offense, reverse transition, pro defense, probably work in transition. You know, if you want to get into special teams and stuff, if you're at that point in your, you know, career and your, you know, development, great. If you find that that's too much, just keep it super simple, right? So just like one little thing here that's last, I think this is pretty important, is the belief that if we just do X, Y, and Z, we will win. You know, you hear our parents say that, our coaches will say that, you know, these hard statements of, you know, they make it seem like the sports are easy, like they're just very simplistic systems, and the truth is they're not, right? So Um, in an effort to add resolve to any emotional reactions we may have from competition outcomes, we need to understand probabilities and assess our performance relative to potential, thus detaching our emotional response from outcome. So, complicated versus complex. So, I'm going to give you guys like a super quick and dirty on the difference between complicated and complex, just so you guys can understand that sometimes you can do everything right, and the outcome still isn't what you wanted, and that's honestly just complex systems. There's just too many variables. There's too many things that can happen, and we're not really in control, right? There's just other teams, other goalies, there's refs, there's life outside of lacrosse, there's coaches, there's weather, there's just all these things coming into play that may or may not assist us in the outcome of the game. And so when things don't go our way, it's really all you can really ask yourself is, how did I perform tonight? And is there something I could have done differently? So here's a little easy example. A calculator obviously seems it's complicated, but anything you put into a calculator will always give you the same answer. It's just a straight equation, right? They know how they make them. They know how to use them. You're not going to get any variance. There's no probabilities involved. If 4 times out of 100, if you add 5 plus 5, you'll get 9 instead of 10. It's just inputs and outputs. It's kind of like linear thinking, right? So in complex situations, which team sports is definitely one, there's just too many variables to ever establish a known outcome. So we used estimates of likely outcomes if we execute our game plan. So what that means is, we come to the rink and, we're playing our team, and we can kind of make a bit of a hypothesis or an estimation on we're playing, the Shamrocks. To beat the Shamrocks, we are going to need to do A, B, and C. That doesn't mean that if we actually do A, B, and C, we're going to win that game. So it just means that, in our kind of our pregame, planning and our preparation, we're going to give ourselves the best chance to win, right? And so whether it's a good team, a bad team, a team that's very equal, there's too many unknowns, right? And so when we come up with these plans, we come to the rink, we really are just playing ourselves, right? It's our performance, our execution of our game plan, our ability to what's the word I'm looking for here? Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. I'll leave it at that. So, there's nothing to keep in mind. Anything can always happen, right? So, we go out, we get 90 shots, we outplay them at every end of the rink. The refs are on our side. Everything goes our way possible, and the goalie stops 89 of 90 shots. It might happen. It could happen, right? Are we going to be upset about our game if that happens? We shouldn't be. You hit a hot goalie. Now to walk away from a game at which we executed, perfectly. We did everything we wanted to do. We planned. We prepped. You guys took care of everything you guys personally as players need to do. To walk away with that and be super frustrated and kind of have a negative response emotionally because we took a loss, just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So obviously I'm tying this in because we're coming off a bit of a losing streak here, and I don't want us to be carrying that into our future games, right? I don't think there's a reason to. I think you guys are playing good. I think with everything that's kind of gone on this season, we're right on track. So I really believe that, and I'm just kind of hoping that you guys do too. So kind of tie this up here, when we talk about our emotional responses to things, kind of don't let anyone tell you to control your emotions. How you feel is how you feel, right? It's just, it's how you're wired, right? So I kind of said, you can't shut off how you feel about something. Really all we can do is acknowledge how we feel and then work to understand them or resolve them, right? So losing fucking sucks. But sliding into a frustrated, unfocused streak of underperformance for sure sucks even more, right? And so, we finish a game. It's our 3rd loss in a row. Just acknowledging how you're feeling as a player and asking if those feelings are justified. So Obviously, like, losing is upsetting. But, if you had a good game, if you felt like you and your teammates worked hard and, it just didn't go our way, not carrying that forward into the next game is, something that can be very beneficial to us. So now if you had a bad game and you didn't play well, maybe you felt like you didn't put the effort in, or, maybe you made some, poor decisions on the floor before the game, leading up to the game, whatever. Yeah, like, you can be upset about that. I think we're all upset when we don't perform at our best, but, at some point you need to kind of like get over the initial response to your performance and start asking yourself, what can I do differently, right? Is this an easily fixable situation? So how can I make sure that next game I don't have that C game, I don't have that underperformance in, some aspect of your game. So is that it? Is that pretty much it? And thanks to AI, I thought I'd tie this up with the Bill Hunter Arena. Let's burn it down tomorrow night, guys. This is a big one. Let's go have some fun. Let's work super hard. Let's bang some people up. I haven't seen you guys in a week. I'm excited. And this is one that we really need to win tomorrow night, right? And so I really want to see you guys come to the rink and kind of just putting our game face on and just getting the job done. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Sorry this took so long. I thought it was going to be like a 10-minute video, and it looks like it was 35. So thanks for watching if you're still here, and yeah, have a good day.